I am 58 years old, and I am sitting in a kitchen that smells like yesterday's coffee and regret. This morning I opened a drawer, you know the kind, the junk drawer, the one that sticks when you pull it and rattles with all the things you shoved in there because you didn't know where else to put them. Rubber bands, dead batteries, a pen that stopped working 3 years ago, takeout menus from restaurants that probably don't exist anymore. My hand was looking for a screwdriver, but my fingers found something else, something cold, something flat, something that used to make me feel like a god, a platinum credit card. Scratched to hell, expired, deactivated, a dead piece of plastic that weighs less than nothing. I pulled it out and held it up to the pale light coming through the window above my sink. The sink was full of dishes I hadn't touched in 2 days, because when you eat alone, you stop caring about things like that. The light hit the card, and I could barely read my name on it anymore. The letters were worn down, kind of like me. This card used to open every door in my life. Restaurant doors, hotel doors, doors to private rooms with velvet ropes, doors to friendships, doors to respect, doors to what I thought was love. Now it won't even open a tab at a gas station. So sit down and let me tell you what nobody told me when I still had time to listen. Because this story isn't about money. I know you think it is. It's not. This story is about the moment I realized that no one in my life, and not one single person, had ever clapped for me. They were clapping for my wallet, and when the wallet closed, every hand went down, every smile disappeared, and every door I thought I'd opened slammed shut so hard the walls shook. Let me take you back. My early 40s. That was the golden decade. That was when I believed a lie so beautiful, so seductive, so perfectly wrapped in everything I wanted to hear, that I never once questioned it. The lie was simple. If you take care of people, they will take care of you. Sounds noble, doesn't it? Sounds like something you'd read on a greeting card or hear in a sermon, and I swallowed it whole. I had built a business from nothing, commercial real estate. I won't bore you with the details, but I will tell you this. There was a time when I could walk into any restaurant in this city, and the hostess would say my name before I said a word. Waiters memorized my order. The maitre d' would pull a table from thin air. Not because I was special, because I spent like I was. Bottle service on Saturdays. I'd wave this card like a magic wand and the champagne would appear. $500, $800. Didn't matter. I'd sign the receipt without looking at the total. You know why? Because everyone at that table would cheer. They'd raise their glasses. They'd say, "That's my guy. That's my brother." And I'd feel it. I'd feel it in my chest like a heartbeat that was louder than the music. I once threw a birthday party for a friend, rented out an entire lounge, open bar, DJ, catering, $12,000. $12,000 for a man whose last name I can now barely remember because he stopped returning my calls 3 years ago. But that night he hugged me in front of everyone. He grabbed my shoulders and said, "I will never forget this." He was right about one thing. I will never forget it either. But for very different reasons. The smell of those years, I can still taste it. Expensive cologne and crowded elevators. The leather of a car that cost more than most people's houses. The sound of a restaurant kitchen plating Wagyu steaks behind a swinging door, while I sat in a private booth and pretended I belonged there. Women lingered after dinners. Men wanted to be seen with me. I was surrounded, constantly, relentlessly. I thought I was building a life. I was building a stage, and every single person in the audience had a ticket that I paid for. I mistook the warmth of a transaction for the warmth of a connection, and I did it every single time, over and over and over again, like a man pouring water into a bucket with no bottom and wondering why it never fills up. Then the bottom fell out of everything else too. It started with a business expansion that went sideways, a new development, a partner I trusted with more than I should have. He had a handshake that felt like concrete, and I confused that with character. The deal collapsed. Then the lawyers came. Not his lawyers, mine. Because when things go wrong in business, the first people who eat are the attorneys. Legal fees piled up like snow in a doorway. Every month, another bill. Every quarter, another account drained. I sold the car, then the boat, then the watch. But I want to be very clear with you. The money leaving, that hurt. But that wasn't the turning point. The turning point was a Tuesday night in October. I remember because it had rained that afternoon, and the street still had that wet pavement smell, that heavy, earthy smell that gets into your clothes. I called my circle, my tight eight. These were the men I'd vacationed with, the men I'd written checks for when their kids needed braces, the men I'd bailed out of embarrassing situations at 2 a.m. without asking a single question. I called all 8 of them and I said, I need to see you tomorrow night. It's important. I picked a restaurant, not the kind we used to go to, no private room, no champagne list, a modest place on the east side with fluorescent lighting that buzzed like it was angry about being on, the kind of place that has laminated menus and the lamination is peeling at the corners and sticky from 1,000 thumbs. There was a ceiling fan above my table that clicked on every rotation. Click, click, click. Like a clock reminding me that time was moving even though everything else in my life had stopped. I got there early. I sat facing the door. I ordered water, just water, and I waited. The first text came at 6:45. Hey brother, something came up with the kids. Can't make it tonight. Let's reschedule. The second one came at 6:52. Stuck at work, man, you know how it is. The third didn't even text. He just didn't show. The fourth, same. The fifth sent a thumbs up emoji 3 hours later, like I'd told him a joke instead of asking him to save my life. 2 showed up, 2 out of 8. They sat across from me in that fluorescent light, and I could see it in their faces. The discomfort, the way their eyes moved around the room like they were looking for an exit. I told them the situation. I said I needed a bridge loan, 60 days. I would pay it back with interest. I wasn't asking for charity. I was asking for exactly what I had given every single one of them, a hand when the ground was shaking. One of them nodded slowly, the way people nod when they've already decided no but want to look like they're thinking about it. He said, "That's rough, man. That's really rough." And then nothing. The other one, and this is the part that visits me at 3 a.m. when the apartment is so quiet I can hear the refrigerator humming. The other one checked his watch. 11 minutes in, 11 minutes. I counted because when your world is ending, you notice everything. The flicker of his eyes to his wrist. The slight shift of his body toward the edge of the booth. The way he folded his napkin like he was preparing to leave a place he never wanted to be. Neither of them offered $1, not $1. We ate in silence, and the silence between bites, the sound of forks scraping cheap ceramic plates, the click of that ceiling fan, the muffled conversation of strangers who had no idea that my entire life was collapsing 3 tables away. That silence said more than any toast they'd ever raised in my name. I drove home that night with both hands on the wheel and my jaw clenched so tight I thought my teeth would crack. And it hit me, not slowly, not gently. It hit me like a truck on a highway. Nobody ever loved me. They loved what I provided. I was a venue. I was an open bar. I was a credit card with no limit. And the moment that limit appeared, I became invisible. Now it's today, and I'm sitting at a kitchen table. Small one, wooden, room for 2, but only 1 chair is ever pulled out. This is not the 12-seat mahogany table I used to own, the one where I hosted Thanksgiving for people who are now hosting Thanksgiving without me. The platinum card is sitting in front of me right now, flat on the table like a little silver tombstone. I look at it and I see every scratch. There's one near the chip that I think came from a night in Miami. There's another along the edge from God knows where. The scratches on this card look like the wrinkles on my face, both earned, both ignored, both completely meaningless now. I pick up my phone sometimes and scroll through my contacts. 200 names, maybe 3 would answer, maybe. I haven't been invited anywhere in 19 months. No birthdays, no holidays, no boat days, no group chats blowing up on a Friday night. Nothing, just silence. The kind of silence that doesn't echo. It just sits on your chest and breathes. I pick the card up and tap it on the table. That small plastic click, tap, tap, tap. It's the loneliest sound in this apartment, lonelier than the fridge humming, lonelier than the rain on the window when you've got no one to turn to and say, "Listen to that rain. No one is coming. I know that now. No one is pulling into the driveway. No one is calling to check in. No one is sending a text that says, 'Hey, haven't heard from you in a while. You okay?' The phone is quiet. The door doesn't knock. The card is dead. And so is every relationship I thought I'd built with it. Now I'm going to talk to you. Yes, you. You watching this right now. You buying rounds for people who wouldn't buy you a glass of water if you were dying of thirst in front of them. You picking up every check because you like the way it feels when the whole table says your name. You confusing applause with affection. Stop it. Stop it right now. I'm not telling you to be cheap. I'm not telling you to hoard your money and trust no one. I'm telling you something harder than that. I'm telling you to test your circle while you can still afford to lose them. Stop paying for people's loyalty and see what happens when the bill doesn't come. See who calls when there's no party to attend. See who shows up to the restaurant with the fluorescent lights and the sticky menus and the ceiling fan that clicks. Because the people who show up there, those are your people. And if nobody shows up, then you know exactly where you stand. And it is better to know that at 35 than to find out at 58, sitting alone in a kitchen, holding a dead credit card and talking to strangers on the internet because they're the only ones listening. Stop auditioning for love. You will never book the part because the role you're auditioning for doesn't exist. Nobody hands out love in exchange for dinner bills and bottle service. That's not how it works. That's never been how it works. And every single person who told you otherwise was reading from a script that you wrote and paid to produce. I put the card back in the drawer now. I don't throw it away. I keep it. Not because I'm sentimental, because it's a scar. And scars are supposed to remind you of what cut you so you don't pick up the same blade twice. The card expired. The accounts closed. The people vanished. But at least now, at 58 years old, sitting in this quiet kitchen that smells like old coffee and truth, I finally know who I am without it. I just wish I'd found out sooner.